The Kraken, scourge of the depths, infamous for dragging ships and their entire crew down into their watery grave. And little 6 to 7-year-old me thought I would suffer the same fate while snorkeling in Maui. Naturally, the only safe haven would be on my mom's back, only looking into the water when she told me that she saw something cool. The point that I'm trying to make here is that the ocean is as mysterious as it is vast, and its rough waves and deep waters can leave many people with a sense of fear. But under all of that tough exterior is a beautiful world just teeming with life. The ocean is full of many, many secrets, and I think the best way to uncover all of those is to go diving. Exploration can bring you life from the act of discovery and the observation of nature at play. I feel for the ocean very deeply, and something about it always makes me want to come back. And this capstone project has really brought that feeling out of me a lot. I think it all began back a couple years ago when I took a trip to San Diego. I remember we had a hotel by the ocean, and me and my cousins would take turns sprinting back and forth from the cold ocean to the nice embrace of the warm hot tub. But that's not what did it for me. No. It was when we were walking back from dinner, and I was walking along the seawall, and I stopped and looked out at the open ocean, the dark ocean, and it was covered in a thick and equally dark fog. At that moment, I felt very alone, very small. I could feel how small I was compared to how big the ocean was, and I don't know, it was a feeling of existential dread. That dread stayed with me until we took a trip to Georgia one spring break, because I wanted to see the Georgia Aquarium. And if I hadn't before, I was absolutely introduced to the sheer diversity of ocean life. I mean, there were tanks with Japanese spider crabs, and their legs would take up like half the tank. And there were these huge, beautiful whale sharks just swimming above in this huge tank, and I could have sat there for hours, and I did. I did sit there for hours, and it was amazing. And I could only imagine what it'd be like to see some of those creatures out in their natural habitat and in the wild. At this point, I had a general liking for the ocean. I appreciated it. I loved the creatures underneath. I thought they were cool, but I was still scared of it. I was very scared of the ocean, as many people are. Probably because of the creatures. There's a lot of really weird creatures down in the ocean. The thing that changed that for me, the thing that changed that for me was a little game called Subnautica, and I find it really funny that a fictional game about fictional creatures really impacted the way that I view the ocean. See, Subnautica is a game that's set in an ocean world, and there's lots of really big, really dangerous, scary creatures called leviathans that can and will eat you. The game doesn't really give you anything but a small knife to collect resources and defend yourself if need be. You can kill the leviathans if you so choose, but here's what I found interesting. If you do choose to kill a leviathan, nothing happens. They just die. You have killed it, and it is dead. And all of a sudden, I had come to the realization that that's how the creatures are in real life. They seem scary and weird, and they might do a lot of weird stuff, or live really far underneath the ocean, or have really big teeth, but in the end, they're just creatures. They are merely trying to survive and thrive like the rest of us on the surface. Now, I'm not saying you should go up and interact with the creatures freely, because they are dangerous and they can hurt you if you are not careful. But what's important is to be able to respect those creatures from a distance. And this lesson, this experience really taught me to be more compassionate towards the creatures underneath the ocean. And I really began to look into creatures that I thought were incredibly interesting. From stuff like the oarfish, potentially inspiring old legends like the sea serpent. I found that incredibly cool. I began to respect the absolute intelligence of cephalopods. I mean, octopus are incredibly smart. It's amazing. I love it. Yeah, so all of that, all of everything had culminated into this passion for preservation and diving as like one singular thing. A couple months ago, I had talked to a man at A1 Scuba in Denver, and his name was Keith Sadler. We had a very interesting conversation, and he told me that protecting the environment was probably one of the most important things that he could tell me, that he could preach, per se. Protecting the environment and making sure everything is safe. And something interesting that he told me was that there's these villages in a place called Wakatobi, which is like a place off of southeast Indonesia, and they have this interesting way of life where big diving companies will pay the villagers to protect the reefs, and in return, the divers can go and dive at the reefs. And so this whole symbiosis thing was very cool. All of the divers have said that because of this, the reefs are teeming with life, and it's bountiful, and it's really beautiful to go see, and that really made me think that preservation and conservation and protecting things while diving was very important. Keith obviously does his part. He takes very specific dives to go pick up trash on the ocean floor and bring it all up to the surface and stuff like that. I found it incredibly touching. It really resonated with me. Keith is not a religious man, or I did not ask if he was a religious man. However, I think what he taught me kind of fits very well into the Bible. In Job 16 and 18, God asked Job if he had journeyed to the springs of the sea, or if he had walked in the recesses of the deep. He asked Job if he can comprehend the vast expanses of the earth. And that verse really stood out, those verses really stood out to me, because God has laid out this beautiful earth, this planet for us to explore and find things and be revitalized in the life that he has created. And I think if we don't protect the stuff underneath the ocean, even on land, anywhere, we won't have a beautiful earth to go and discover. And I don't know, I find that really important personally. As I had mentioned before, I wanted to do conservation diving, but that's not the only job that divers can take. There are actually a whole load, and just to rattle off a few of the most dangerous ones, there's like nuclear reactor diving, criminal investigation diving, offshore saturation diving, hazmat diving, I don't know, just to name a few. And I think the most interesting one that I find there is criminal investigation diving, where divers will go into rivers and stuff, like the Hudson River, and dig up potential murder weapons and maybe bodies and stuff like that. I find that was really interesting that, there are people that go and do all of that. I don't know, I found it really cool. I was absolutely blown away by how many jobs there were for diving, and naturally with those jobs comes certifications, and there's many different certifications for all of those jobs. For example, there's a bell diving certification, which allows you to get in this bell-shaped contraption and be lowered in the water to be able to do underwater construction and stuff like that. I personally only have an open water diving certification. That only allows me to go on regular diving trips. I can only go down to 60 or 70 feet or so. It's basic stuff. I don't really want to do any of that stuff that I had previously mentioned. All of that's kind of too dangerous for me. I don't know if I really like all of that. But as I stated before, I am very interested in conservation and getting a certification for something like that. Fortunately for me, my brother and my mother are also certified along with me. They had done it before. They had done all the training and all of the courses, but they never did that final dive to get them the certification. And they did it again, and they are certified now. But before, my mom did not really like the training process. She didn't like being in the training pool with a bunch of random people just swimming over her and stuff like that. She felt very cramped, and yeah, she didn't like it. But fortunately, this time she took private lessons with with Keith Sadler, as I had mentioned before. That man, good man, I love him. Uh, yeah, so she took private lessons with my brother, and she enjoyed it so much more. And I can understand why she didn't enjoy it before, as it can be incredibly strenuous when you're underwater with all your gear and stuff like that. So I'm thankful, and I appreciate and admire them for sticking it out till the end with me and doing this whole crazy thing. In order to get certified, they had to do like 2 final deep water dives, and so we took a quick 2-day trip to Midwest Utah, and we dove in the Homestead Crater. It's like, I don't know, it's a crater, it's kind of like a hot springs, it's really warm, it's a pretty cool place. Unfortunately, they did not have a great experience while they were there. See, on their first dive, they had gotten in, and while they were descending, my mom could not regulate her ears. She could not, like, regulate them, you know, like you blow out through your nose and your ears pop. And that caused her to panic and start sinking lower, and the lower she sank, the harder it was for her to regulate her ears, so she just freaked out. And that my brother had to go and rescue her and, you know, like, bring her up to the, like, 30 feet or so where they were supposed to all be. She did not like that, obviously. She was not very fond of diving after that. And that really made me realize, it furthered evidence, it was more proof that diving isn't for everybody. It's really hard to micromanage all of your gear while you're underneath the water, and it's stressful, and it can be strenuous. I don't know, it's very hard, and I understand that a lot of people, it's just not for them. They're not built for that. Fortunately, my brother still enjoys it. He likes diving, even if that experience wasn't exactly the greatest for them. This is, at least I think, where patience plays a huge role in how all of this works. I mean, you have to be patient with your gear and underneath the waves, because if you freak out, bad stuff can happen, and it's like a snowball effect. It can just keep going. And I'm 100% serious when I say that staying calm and being patient underneath the water can be the difference between life or death while you're under there, especially if you're really deep. I understand that diving is really rough and really hard and not for everybody, as I've already said, but I'm really thankful that my family was able to get certified without any major problems or accidents, and I admire them for just coming along with me. While we were in Utah, I also got to go diving in the crater, so that was very fun. I did a refresher course, just made sure I had all my diving skills down. It was really easy, so that was nice. I got to go diving down to like the bottom of the crater. It was like 60 to 70 feet down. There wasn't much to see. It was really murky. We were in a crater. So it was a fun experience, but not a whole lot happened. But I was really glad that I did it, because it made me remember how fun diving was and how much I really enjoyed being under the water. So after that trip, we were supposed to go and take a trip to Curacao. Yes, Curacao. Which is an island about 40 miles off of Venezuela. However, all of that had been postponed till later in the year due to the coronavirus pandemic. So that's fun. Yeah, it was postponed until later in the year. If all goes well, we'll still be able to go this year. I just won't be able to share it in this format. I was very disappointed that we won't be able to go, but I think it's even more important to stay safe. Yeah, it's important to stay safe and not take any risks going somewhere or bringing anything back. Yeah, I mean, I could overlook my disappointment. While we were in Curacao, I was supposed to take a coral restoration program. So we would go down, you'd dive, and you'd go down, and you'd learn about, like, threats to coral reefs, and, like, about coral bleaching and its predators, and about, like, scanning for diseases, and you'd learn to, like, take coral and hang it in a coral nursery tree, which is like this, it's like a little, like, metal, like, tree thing, and you, like, hang the coral so it can grow again while not, like, surrounded by a bunch of stuff. And then you take it off the tree and you reintroduce it back into a reef so it can, you know, grow and thrive and, like, assemble itself. Unfortunately, I was not able to do that, but my passion and interest for coral restoration definitely stayed with me. So instead, I watched this documentary called Chasing Coral by Jeff Orlowski. And it was a beautiful documentary. I thought it was amazing. It's about coral bleaching and this, like, group of marine biologists, and they're trying to, like, prove to people that, like, coral bleaching was a thing, and like, show its effects and, like, what it looks like and stuff. And at the end, they showed this, like, time lapse that they took of the coral while they were being bleached, and it was really sad to see this vibrant, beautiful, colorful coral turn into this, like, dead, gray, flaky matter at the bottom of the ocean. I mean, it was really, really sad to see. And, I don't know, it really struck a chord with me. The reefs are among the world's largest ecosystems, and they provide so much for the Earth. And I think it's a real shame that a lot of people don't see what's happening and how things can affect the coral in negative ways, and what happens if our reefs die. And I really wanted to get that out there. Capstone has definitely tasked us with taking something that we love or appreciate and expanding on it and seeing what there is about it that we really love. And I could not find a single thing that is bad about about diving, about what I love. I couldn't find anything bad about what I wanted to do, and that's obviously a good thing. I genuinely want the creatures of the sea and even above to be safe and thrive and live in a beautiful, vibrant world that we can all share and enjoy. The healthy ecosystems benefit not only us, but the flora and the fauna underneath the ocean, and the Earth as a whole, obviously. I want people to share the same love of the ocean as I do, even if they can't go diving. And, I don't know, I thank the ocean every day for how much it provides for us and its life-giving properties. And I hope that other people could stare out into the ocean as I did and see not just a force of water crashing against the waves, but a beautiful home for many of the world's most interesting creatures. Thank you.